And I'm Keith Kate reporting live tonight from the University of South Florida, just outside the Marshall Center and just to the right of the Theater 1, where tonight's GOP debate took place and ended just a few moments ago. It was an interesting debate, to say the least, but not nearly as fiery as the previous debates that we saw in South Carolina. Gail, there's certainly more fireworks tonight, if that's what you were looking for in this 19th debate. Keep in mind, this is the last time we'll probably see these four on stage, at least in Florida. The Florida voters had a lot to look at this evening, especially between the two front runners, and the topic of immigration came up first.
The grandmothers or grandfathers aren't likely to self-deport.
Socially diverse, economically diverse, politically diverse. Florida is the nation's political pressure cooker, a must-have win in the battle to the White House. The lines are drawn. Let the fighting begin. Now, live from the News Center, an 8 on your side Decision 2012 special report, Battleground, Florida.
Good evening, I'm Keith Kate, and welcome to our Decision 2012 special, Battleground, Florida. And a battleground it is on this presidential preference primary eve. For weeks, the GOP field of candidates and the news crews who follow them have been working Florida voters in the cities and in the smallest towns seeking their party's nomination. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight in this 1 hour. I'll be joined by some political experts this evening, but first, the latest numbers. Today's RASMUSSEN poll has the former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney with a double-digit lead over the former Speaker Newt Gingrich in Florida. Romney up 44% to 28% for Gingrich, and this is a big turnaround over last week. Rick Santorum earns 12%, while Ron Paul picks up 10%. Newt Gingrich knows all about momentum. It was going all his way coming out of South Carolina following his impressive win in that state's primary. But that was more than a week ago, and the tide has clearly turned. Gingrich knows it, and it is something we talked about aboard his campaign bus. The polls show you have somewhat of an uphill battle. How do you feel going into these final few hours?
Well, I think we have been closing, and if you look at all the different conservative elements who've come together in the last 3 days, who are all saying that the only effective conservative vote is for Newt Gingrich.
Welcome back. I'm Keith Kate. We have put together a panel of political experts tonight. Among the guests joining me, University of South Florida professor Dr. Susan McManus, who is our News Channel 8 political analyst. Also here, another respected voice of experience reporting from Washington as well as around the world since the early 1980s, NBC News national correspondent Steve Handelsman. Thanks to both of you for joining us here this evening. Steve, you've been covering politics and presidential politics since the early 80s, and we were talking before this program began. You don't really see a whole lot of difference, but I mean, the attacks are there, and we all look at it and go, wow, look at these attacks, but we've seen it before.
And they know that it works decade after decade. If you're Newt Gingrich and you sit around and you say, geez, could it help me to stop talking about Mitt Romney as a Massachusetts moderate, take it up a notch and call him a Massachusetts liberal? Could that help? Sure, it can help.
In a one-on-one interview with Mitt Romney last week, we asked about the criticism that he pays an effective tax rate of less than 15%. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I can't imagine anyone saying they should pay more than is required by the law.
This is a Decision 2012 special report, Battleground, Florida, primary night.
Thank you to the people in this room and to the people all over Florida. Thank you tonight for this great victory.
Good evening, I'm Keith Kate.
I'm Gail Sierens. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Let's get right to the results. Mitt Romney started the night strong, and he never trailed, winning by double digits with 98% of the precincts now reporting. Mitt Romney has 46% of the vote. Newt Gingrich has 32%. Rick Santorum placed third in tonight's contest with 13%, and Ron Paul came in fourth with 7% of the vote. We have 8 on your side team coverage on Decision 2012 Battleground, Florida. We'll check in with Jeff Patterson in Orlando and our political analyst, Dr. Susan McManus. But we begin with News Channel 8's Natalie Shepard. Mr. President, thank you for taking the time to speak with me today.
Great to see you.
I know you want to extend the payroll tax cut through the end of the year.
Right.
I know the good, hardworking folks of Florida want to see that as well, and it looks like the Republicans are ready to compromise. Are you satisfied with what they're suggesting, and how long before we put this behind us for once and for all?
You know, I'm cautiously optimistic at this point. Democrat Scott Swope is a former Pinellas deputy and now a practicing attorney, but today he's just a candidate who hopes to unseat Bob Gualtieri in the Pinellas sheriff's race.
Shaking hands and waving, trying to get the name out there.
St. Pete Beach City Commissioners voted to put a question on the November 6th ballot that would open the door to having the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office take over the small town police department.
I've now been on the Florida Supreme Court for 13 years, and to my dying breath, I will protect the Constitution of the state of Florida.
These are emotions rarely revealed by a Supreme Court justice. But Justice R. Fred Lewis and two of his high court colleagues, Barbara Pariente and Peggy Quince, are involved in the biggest battle of their careers.
The wait here was more than an hour at points. You can see the line comes out of the door, down the sidewalk, and curves around the block.
Live from the Republican National Convention in downtown Tampa, this is a special Decision 2012 edition of News Channel 8 at 5.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gail Searins.
And I'm Keith Cate. Thank you for joining us. We are coming to you live tonight from the Tampa Bay Times Forum, where the 2012 Republican National Convention is getting into full swing.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio was well into his speech about free enterprise and the American dream when the heckling began.
Well, I guess he's not happy with the hotel assignment.
I think it's already affected the tone a little bit. We just had the roll call of the states, and when he went over the top, there was no balloon drop or anything like that. I think it's already a little bit more subdued.
So
Mitt Romney's a friend, and I've gotten along with him very well.
Our special guest here this evening, that's former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Talk about rising stars. You are one of them yourself. I mean, you are going to be the youngest speaker in the state of Florida. You're the House Speaker.
So I want to make my contribution.
Romney promised to create jobs for millions of unemployed Americans.
And it has been an exciting time, not only for the Bay Area, but for the state of Florida. Governor Rick Scott standing by right now with our Lauren Make on the floor. Lauren, good evening.
Gail, there is definitely a party happening down here on the floor of the convention hall. I'm here with Governor Rick Scott. Governor, tell me what your thoughts were as you were listening to Mitt Romney speak tonight.
Well, first off, his speech was inspiring.
Former Republican, former Florida Governor Charlie Crist took to the stage tonight to make his case for why he is supporting President Barack Obama for a second term. We had a chance to speak with him immediately after he left the stage.
I am honored to be here, honored to have the opportunity to support this president. What I said out there, I really believe in my heart. He has done so much for our Florida and so much for all people. I thought it was important to get that message across.
Do you want to be a Democrat, Governor?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just proud to support the president.
What are your plans for 2014 as far as running for governor?
I don't have any plans. The only plan I have is to work as hard as I can for this man for the next 61 days to make sure he continues to be our president.
Are you still pro-gun, pro-life, and anti-tax?
I am.
What will people be saying about Charlie Crist in Florida tomorrow and this speech in particular?
Well, Republicans won't like what he had to say, and Democrats maybe don't know it, but they're happy that he's supporting the president.
Tonight was the first time President Barack Obama and Mitt Romney have faced each other in 5 years. We do have live analysis in our studio tonight. Keith Cate with Charlie Crist and State Representative Will Weatherford. We'll also talk with our political analyst, Dr. Susan McManus, to find out which candidate may have scored the most points with voters this evening. And we'll have the results of a News Channel 8 poll to find out which issue in this presidential race is the most important to you. So who won round 3? Let's take you live to Keith Cate, who watched the entire debate in Boca Raton. He joins us now live with analysis.
Now, a special News Channel 8 Decision 2012 update.
Good evening again. I'm Keith Cate.
I'm Gail Searins. Thank you for joining us. Let's jump right into some of these results we have for you tonight. Here's a look at that U.S. Senate race. The Associated Press and NBC News have declared Democratic incumbent Bill Nelson the winner over Republican challenger Connie Mack, 57 to 43%.
Busy night, though, on social media. I mentioned Twitter.
Absolutely, it has. The News Channel's Jennifer Lee is in our social media center right now. Jen, bring us up to date with what kind of stuff you've been seeing throughout the evening.
Well, you know, you guys mentioned earlier that some people are still staying in line down in South Florida. In fact, hashtag stay in line is something that we've seen trending on Twitter. I think Dr. Susan McManus probably says it best, though, here in one of her tweets, still biting nails in Florida. She's using our hashtag here, WFLA Politics.